It is exactly 3 minutes past the hour. Welcome to News Check on this, the first day of the month of October 2024. A critical day in the August House as well as to health matters. First things first, in the August House, we're talking about the possible impeachment motion that is set to be tabled against the Deputy President, that is Rigathi Gachagua. And if so, if that will be tabled, we're to see who is the sponsor of this motion. And of course, it is reported that it has surpassed the 117 threshold required to make its way to the House. That is our focus on the first hour. And also a landmark ruling that was made by the High Court a few days ago in regards to the National Government Constituency Development Fund that was declared unconstitutional. What is the impact on the various 290 constituencies following that particular ruling? In the second hour, we'll be focusing on the Social Health Authority, that is SHA, given that the rollout is going to commence today on the 1st of October 2024 as envisaged by the Ministry of Health. Yesterday, they were before a parliamentary committee where they got a nod from the National Assembly's Health Committee to continue with the rollout. So far, over 2 million Kenyans have registered, and the ministry is urging, if you have not registered, you can do so. But we start off with our first conversation. We want to focus on the state of the nation. But before we dive into our conversation, let's take a look at this story that was prepared by none other than Edward Kabasa on the procedures that guides the impeachment motion of a second in command.
Kenya's Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is a man under siege. Lawmakers are toying with the idea of hounding him out of office. Well, impeaching a deputy president in Kenya is a process guided by the Constitution of Kenya, primarily under Article 150. Let's walk through how it works. First, a member of the National Assembly must initiate the process by proposing a motion for impeachment. The grounds for this motion must be clearly stated and must fall under one of three categories: gross violation of the Constitution or any other law, the commission of a crime under national or international law, or gross misconduct. This is specified under Article 150, subsection 1A and B. Once the motion is presented, it must be supported by at least 1/3 of all members of the National Assembly. Given that there are 349 members in total, this means that at least 117 members must support the motion for it to proceed. If this threshold is met, the motion is then tabled for debate. After the debate, the National Assembly must vote on the resolution. Here, the Constitution requires a much higher threshold. At least 2/3 of all members of the National Assembly must approve the impeachment. In numbers, that means 233 members out of 349 must vote in favor of the motion for it to move forward to the Senate.
Honorable Senators, I wish to welcome you to this special sitting of the Senate.
Once it reaches the Senate, the process enters a different phase. Article 145, subsection 4, allows the Senate to form a special committee to investigate the allegations. This committee, if formed, conducts an inquiry and reports its findings back to the entire Senate.
This motion, Mr. Speaker.
Finally, the Senate debates the matter. For the Deputy President to be removed from office, at least 2/3 of all senators must support the impeachment. With 67 senators, this means that at least 45 must vote in favor of the charges. If the Senate votes to uphold the charges, then the Deputy President is removed from office immediately, as stipulated under Article 150, subsection 2. Thus, the process is quite rigorous, requiring high levels of parliamentary support at each stage to ensure that the decision to remove a deputy president is made thoughtfully and with significant backing.
Thank you, Kabasa, for that story. Now, you can clearly see that Article 150 of the Constitution is quite clear in terms of removing a second-in-command from office on the ground on physical or mental incapacity to perform his functions of the office, and on impeachment on the ground of gross violation of the provisions of the Constitution or any other law, whereas there are serious reasons to believe that the Deputy President has committed a crime under national or international law for gross misconduct. Now, that has clearly been stipulated in Article 150 of the Constitution. Now, to talk to us this morning, we'll be joined by none other than Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance and policy expert. We'll have Sam Imeli, who's already here in studio, a policy and governance expert. Edward Waswa, an advocate of the High Court, already here with us. And finally, Joseph Kagai, Jubilee Party strategist, already also here with us. But let me start with you, Sammy. What do you make of this impeachment talks?
Thank you very much. First, today is a day, International Day of Older Persons.
Okay.
First, wish all the older persons well. Number two is now the impeachment of the Deputy President will be the first one of its kind to ever happen in this republic. And I think it has dire consequences on the holder of the office if the motion goes through. And our lawyers will advise us on what will happen. But the Constitution is very clear. If he wants to survive politically, he should either resign or wait for the ultimate axe which is coming. And looking at the stories and what is going on so far, it seems like it has been decided that he should go. But what I'm wondering is, where is the boss? He should say something before this happens to his second in command. But if you see things would have gone up to that extent, that means the house is no longer habitable for the two. Because they are not conjoined twins as such, because one is elected, the other one is appointed. Because if you look at the history, people are saying that if Ruto would have picked anyone, President Ruto would have picked anyone, he would still have won. Even if he would have picked Mama Mboga from central Kenya, the ones who was being flagged around. But I want to say that it would be unfortunate for Honorable Rigathi Gachagua if this goes through. But I was expecting him to be remorseful. But every other time he appears on the mic, he spoils it again. So I think his goose is cooked. Yes.
We wait to see, given that the motion has not even reached the National Assembly. Wakili, guide us through. You've just watched Kabasa's story. In terms of the legal provisions are there, the Constitution is very clear. What are these grounds that you think could be incorporated into that motion so that it can sail through if there is a motion to begin with?
Thank you very much for having me here today. And I think we are talking about now the question of Article 150 B, whereby we are addressing the question of impeachment. And on this question, we are looking at the gross misconduct. I believe from whatever we've been seeing around the DP going around since he was elected, rather they were elected, personally, for me, as a Kenyan, I can come up with very many grounds for gross misconduct before even I get to now the cabinet and in-house. And these allegations being thrown around that he banged a table, if they are able to prove that indeed the DP banged a table on his boss, that is a very serious gross misconduct. The question of division politics, talking about tribal politics. Anytime he appears on national television, he's talking about Mrima and something. You know, we are a nation of very many tribes. If you're talking about politics of isolation, you want to isolate a certain community for your own benefit, then that is also a politics of isolation, and that one now also falls into gross misconduct. Another issue that we've been seeing the DP talking about in public, and this is what I'm talking as a public, as a Kenyan, yeah, just a citizen. There are a lot that we are yet to see once they table that motion. Because I believe when the motion is tabled now, we'll understand what are these issues we're talking about. But at the moment, from whatever we're seeing, we've been seeing the DP talking about shareholders. Trying to show the public that there are other Kenyans who are bigger than the other Kenyans. Those who voted for this government are now who are supposed to even get more services than other Kenyans. That is something that can put the DP into a lot of trouble. So the question only on gross misconduct, that is a question that will throw the DP out. And from what my brother has said, clearly his goose is cooked. Because if at all, at the moment, from whatever we're hearing from the news and whatever, because we hate to see, if at all they're saying they already have 300 signatures, then we know that in the event the same is tabled in the National Assembly, then we will be waiting now to see what happens in the Senate. Because I've seen some senators not really comfortable with this kind of arrangement. So I anticipate that the National Assembly will, of course, pass that motion. But I'm worried about the Senate. I think the Senate has a bit of sober minds. And we've seen this in the previous impeachments. I know our brother is laughing, but we've seen the previous impeachments.
We've seen what Kawera, the support of 45
yes, the first and second impeachment of Kawera, we saw very brilliant minds and sober minds in the Senate. So they might be excited with the National Assembly, but I'm really worried about the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joseph, welcome to the show, and we're talking about this impeachment motion. So how do you find it so far?
Yeah, thank you so much for this day that we are discussing 2 years into the government about an impeachment of a deputy president. For us in Jubilee Party yesterday, first of all, we got a very, very big win, and we thank our members for standing strong with the party.
We are trying to let's sort your mic. It has some issues. Apologies for that. Let me come back to Sammy. We are talking about, you said this will be the first time if an impeachment motion is brought between before the House in regards to a second in command. But what are we looking at? We have Kenyans on one side who are requiring services, but legislators who are trying to go against the wishes of the people.
You know, a house divided cannot even deliver those services you expect. The house is already divided. The house has to be put in order, and the boss must put it in order. But unfortunately, we have waited until now. It is the legislative arm of government that is putting this house in order. Because if you ask yourself, somebody is talking about shareholding. I thought after elections, we fall back and get services as the entire country. I bet, because I remember William Ruto when he was a deputy president, His Excellency William Ruto, he would come to Rift Valley, avoid even speaking in Kalenjin. Yes? There was a time he came and we had agenda, and he said, now, I am a national leader. I am not here for Rift Valley. I am here for the purposes of serving all Kenyans equally. And you saw him traversing the country, supporting the president's agenda, and not dividing the country. Already we are like on an election mood, like we are having elections next week. This is not right. Something has to put a stop to this. And the deputy president should be remorseful. He should be obedient to his, submissive to the leadership that appointed him. Because if he was to be impeached today, we'll have another deputy president who either, again, if we will be rogue, will have to be impeached until things come in order.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wakila, I see you're shaking your head, but as you respond to that issue as well, talk to us. There were 3 petitioners who went to court, including the former Secretary General of UDA himself, that is Cleophas Malala. Why did the courts decide to stay out of this issue? Is it the doctrine of separation of power?
Before I get there, I think we need to be sincere enough. I think my brother is not being sincere enough. I think the DP, Gachagua, is just being a good student. He has learned from his boss. He has learned from the best. You know, we must agree that after the first election of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, immediately after election, William Ruto started campaigning. That's what Gachagua was just doing. He's just learned from the best. So we can't say that, so my brother saying that at some point William used to go in his backyard and avoid speaking in the Kalenjin and what have you, he's lying.
No, we have not said it's not lying.
No, he's
we
lying.
have covered the president so many times in his backyard. I was in Kericho just the other day with the head of state, Waswa, and he did not speak in his local dialect.
Yes, even now when he's the president.
I think we are having a selective discussion here whereby the difference is getting
No, I'm just giving you an instant. You're saying it's lying, but I'm giving you an instant.
That could be one of the, what I'm trying to say is the president, as he was then the deputy president, then when he used to go back to his backyard, you know, he made that office of the DP look like a community office. It used to happen. So let's not lie to each other. Those are selective, and I must say, even Gachagua himself, he doesn't speak in Kikuyu all the time. He goes to Kikuyu. Yeah, he makes sure he looks at the congregation. Yeah, looks at the temperature, the political temperature, and he decides what to say. Yeah, you know, you must look at your audience. What do they want to hear? And that is what they are doing. So the president himself taught the DP what to do. So the DP Gachagua, remember previously we had a wave whereby we had a Kerandini Nyoro traversing the country. You know, the DP felt like, you know, the president decided to prepare younger people to come and take over Mount Kenya. Gachagua could not just sit there and wait. No, he had to step up and make sure that he's also coming up, showing his people that he can lead the mountain.
Okay.
Now, that aside.
To the question now.
You asked about the petition that Malala filed in court. And you asked whether it is a question of separation of powers or not. I think it's not. It's not a question of separation of powers. I believe if you read the ruling, what the court is trying to say is that this issue is still premature.
Yes.
Yeah? A court cannot jump into a question that is yet even to be tabled. We don't know what grounds that they are bringing in Parliament. So until we wait and we see the mover of the motion table that motion, then those grounds can now form a question to be determined in court. However, as you're speaking, surely what are you filing a suit for? It is still premature.
Okay. Joseph, now I think your mic is okay. You can have your views in regards to the discussion we're having now.
Yes, as I was saying, I wanted to also send an appreciation to Jubilee Party members across the country for standing strong with the party. And the ruling that we got yesterday, that victory belongs to the members.
Yes.
Now, that set aside, I was even trying to listen to my colleagues here. And I'm wondering, 2 years into a new government, we are discussing about an impeachment. 2 years into a government that the school system, it's still confusing. Health system, still confusing. So my question on behalf of me and the people who think like me, is it a priority to do the impeachment now? Again, where did the rain start beating this government? Because 2 years, it is a very, very short time. And the exchanges that we have seen with the politicians and the passion they have to follow through this impeachment, they leave a person like me with a big question. Where, what time did the president and his deputy, who were a serious darling through the campaign, part ways? You hear stories, I say we hear because as Jubilee we were in Azimio and we are still in Azimio, we hear that even the selection of the DP, there were votes that were casted and he was a minority in that voting. But the president decided, this is my deputy. So when you find people who have such a relationship, even to defy the will of those who are making that decision at that time, leaves us Kenyans with so many, many questions. What happened? What was the fabric of their relationship? Was it a house built on sand that is now crumbling very, very fast? But as much as we want to look at it, it is solving something within the UDA. Remember, since last year, Azimio have been on the streets calling upon good governance. This year, the Gen Z followed through, calling upon good governance and accountability. We are at a time whereby there is so much discussed about the Adani airport lease. You have a lot of SHA issues. You have the university, a select committee was set to look into the funding model. All these things, and then you bring an impeachment motion. Are our MPs prioritizing their work properly? That is our question.
Okay. Daktari, thank you for joining us. You can see the heated conversation we are having here. Welcome to the show. Contribute to it. But Joseph has just asked a critical questions. We have a number of issues that are still pending. Is impeachment the priority now?
Thank you very much, Abdulaziz and the rest of the panelists. I think before we get to whether impeachment is a priority or not, is the impeachment holding water? First and foremost, does it actually exist? Because why I'm asking that question is, we may want to discuss, like the way our colleague has said here, you take a case to the court before even knowing what the content of that particular case is, then it will be difficult for any judge to make any judgment or any decision. Similarly, there are quite a number of issues that have arisen based on the current issues that are going on, which is the impeachment. Now, Deputy President is being accused of bringing division among Kenyans or issues of tribalism. We hear others are talking about issues of getting wealth within a shortest time period and listing some properties that the Deputy President owns, claim to own. You hear the issue of him not respecting the decision of the cabinet and speaking out of you know, the decisions that has been made in cabinet outside the public. So these are things that people who are talking about the impeachment are moving so that they table it. But a point will come. Members of parliament in Kenya, historically, are fans of two things only. One is when there is a gain in a debate or a bill that they know they will get, they will secure some little things out of it. Secondly is when you touch the national government constituency fund development, which affects them directly. But when it comes to the real situation and the real mandate that they have been championed for to exercise in parliament, they rarely do that. And therefore, if priorities was not a priority for them even before, it can never become a priority now. But what is very important in the current debate on the Deputy President impeachment is what is the gain in terms of the current government, in terms of the Kenyans with the current situation, economic situation that we are already seeing. So people will not value actions based on the reaction, based on the results that they're going to achieve. But most of our actions are based on reactions. And therefore, this is a political game, a political exercise, supremacy that is going on. And you know very well, as he has mentioned, during the time when Deputy President was being picked, the current Mount Kenyan members of parliament, the ones who are in the office currently, were not for Rigathi Gachagua. And therefore, if they were not for Rigathi Gachagua, and the main reason was that if Rigathi Gachagua comes in as a deputy president, he will going to destroy them, their political career, and for 2027, they may not get a space to be re-elected. Then that is the game that is trying to be played now to prove that if this guy goes off our way, through impeachment, because impeachment is not a very easy thing. If you are impeached, then you are not allowed to be in politics, you are not allowed to hold any political office or government office. So basically, they want to destroy Rigathi Gachagua completely politically and then pave way for themselves. But there is a consequences to that. The consequences is that, just to know that, my brother, the Azimio guys, all the heavyweight, political heavyweight of the mountain are actually out in the cold. They are not the ones who are in parliament at the moment. And they have a big say when they get the deputy government out of UDA, and now they call their issues in order. then there will be a big force there. Politically, those young men who are currently in active politics in the House and trying to advocate for the impeachment of the Deputy President will definitely have also consequences in terms of their political career. Secondly, the issue of, or the factor of the previous immediate president. I mean, President Uhuru Kenyatta still plays a very great role as an elder of the mountain. And you know, he was an elder of the government, or the country. But now after he has handed over, everybody goes back to his backyard. And his backyard is the mountain, and he plays a great role in influencing the political landscape of the mountain region. And if that is the case, then with also the Kioni, what is his name? Kioni and Jeremiah Kioni and the rest being also in the free
David Morant
area, then means Gachagua will land in a very good place. However, impeachment is not a very good option for the deputy president. There are other avenues, there are other options, there are court battles, there are retirement or resigning from the position so that he is able to gain momentum of political ground in his own backyard, so that he is able to negotiate with a more stronger political formations than where he is now. He's actually nowhere. Actually, let me tell you, he's actually nowhere at the moment because he is in UDA. UDA is trying to push him out, and therefore, where will he go? He is nowhere at the moment.
Okay, we want to wind up this topic because we want to talk about NGCDF. You just talked about it a little bit. But Sami, how can we salvage? It's exactly 10:30 and the House is coming in session at 2:30. We are here to see if the Speaker has cleared it to be on the floor of the House. But how can this situation be salvaged within those few hours?
Within those few hours, and I said before, he has to be apologetic, kneel down before his boss and say, save me. Because he has all the powers to salvage him. Because I know he calls shots in the parliament at the moment. So he can tell him, he can just go slowly tell him, I am repentant. These things, he should not go defending himself because nobody will listen to it. He has a few hours to salvage himself. Just see the boss, repent before those members of parliament, see them. Actually, it's repentance time because there's no time.
That sounds ridiculous. That sounds ridiculous. I think he just have to prepare himself and face it.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no any other way.
Yeah, that is why I'm coming to Wakili. Wakili, let's say, for example, it is there, it has passed through the National Assembly, it has passed through the Senate. Yes. Can he seek recourse from the courts?
Yes. The Constitution says that in the event that the DP is impeached, and maybe he feels like the Senate did not follow the process. Remember, you're going to court not to tell the court to quash that impeachment or proceedings.
Yes.
No, you are just going to court on matters procedure. Was the procedure followed? Were the standing orders followed? Were you given fair hearing? Remember, in the procedure for impeachment, in the event that this election, the select committee of 11 members, once they find that indeed there are some issues that need to be discussed and to be voted upon, yeah, this motion now goes to the committee of the whole. Rather, the whole House now votes. Now, in the event that maybe he thinks that the committee was kind of influenced and he has information that this committee was influenced, then, and he has those proper evidence, then the courts can intervene. But the court can intervene if at all the process was followed to the latter. And from what I'm seeing, the members of parliament, most of them are very good lawyers. I think they are not going to make that mistake. If they want him out, they'll make sure they follow the process properly so that to avoid a battle, a court battle after the impeachment. However, the president, no, the DP, I think at the stage where we are now, he cannot salvage anything. The only thing he can now do is to prepare a very good defense, make sure he responds to those questions properly, make sure that he mobilizes. I think the main here, because this is a political process, he does need to mobilize properly. And we've seen tables turn. We've seen the president turning tables and becoming the first DP to become president in the history. So anything can happen. And I believe that politics is a game of interest. We've seen allegations of our politicians, our MPs, some of them being bribed 100,000, 10,000 in toilets. So I think the DP knows what to do. Yeah, he has amassed a lot of wealth. He knows what to do.
No, you're telling him to bribe.
No.
I
didn't say that. I didn't say that.
What were you alluding to?
I didn't say that. I just said he knows what to do.
Okay, so we leave it at that. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph, we have seen these young people, especially Gen Zs, they came out on the streets. In the words of the president himself, they were leaderless, they were faceless. Is it time to do away with this political affiliations, regions, because this is some of the myriad of issues that are being raised within the political circles? If the Gen Zs can do it without a political movement, can we not do the same for the country?
First of all, I would like to even whatever you will say, anchor my thoughts that as Africans, we must be proud of our culture and our ethnicity. We must be so proud of it because it is what we identify ourselves with as Africans. But using it for political balkanization,
yes,
that one is where corruption finds roots. That is where we find all this, because people may call Rigiji tribal and everything because he has been very vocal on his interest. But look at every other community. They have those caucuses, they meet and come to government, demand from government, only that they don't make too much noise. And if you put 10 people in a crowd and then also get another 3 people from another region, 5 people, those who are many will shout more because they are more. By their voice, you will hear them more. So every community in Kenya goes to the president to ask on behalf of their community. Even our constitution also emphasizes on the same. That is why we talk about regional balances, equalization fund, all those things, because we identify there are regions in this country that are a bit behind. There are those who are a bit advanced. We have to factor all that diversity. But using it for balkanization, for political interest, without service to the Kenyans, that is where it goes wrong. What Gen Z brought about is, can we first put Kenya first? Yes. That is why the signature was the flag. The language was unison. Nobody was even, there was not even class of who is at what class or what. So what the political class of today is missing, it is understanding that the generation of today, those people who are between 18 and now 40 years, they have a different perspective of how the country should be run. And the reason you find even the stories about impeachment of Rigathi and the conflict within the presidency is not even, they are not buying it. The young people are not buying that narrative. They are still not even sure it will be tabled. We are still skeptical. Why? Because we don't see that impeachment solving any problem that the Kenya is facing today. The only thing it will do, it is restore the ego of the president or those who feel they have removed the DP. But what comes after that impeachment? The turmoil that this country will go into, the political turmoil. Remember, we are dealing with somebody who says that he's a truthful man. He knows he cannot run again, any seat.
Yes.
What will he invest his time to do? Destruction of what he made. And then because they came together, they knew exactly what they did. So we are even eager to know. Me, I'm so eager to know how the election was won. I'm so eager to know they are done it deal. Now I think somebody who will be so hurt. Have you ever seen an ex who is hurt? He will be investing his time to show people, I was not the bad guy. It was him. My speaking truth brought about. But we look at the charges, especially on the security issues. The oath of secrecy in government is totally breached.
Yes.
Not just Rigiji. All these government, the MPs and everybody, you will hear things they talk about concerning our security and the sovereignty of our country. You are afraid how this government will maneuver the next 3 years. Yes.
Okay, it is a matter of wait and see. At exactly 2:30, we're to see the face of the impeachment motion that is reported to be prepared by a section of National Assembly members. Signatures have been appended. That is the report we're getting. We're to see who will table it, and what are some of the charges that have been put in that impeachment motion. Now, quickly shifting gears, because we only have 20 minutes or so, the High Court, in terms of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, declared unconstitutional. Now, the High Court ruled that the National Government, NGCDF, is unconstitutional. However, elected members of the National Assembly have been granted about 2 years to finish the pending projects across the constituencies before the NGCDF ceases to exist at midnight on June 30th, 2026. The High Court ruled that the kitty was unconstitutional after making a determination on 9 issues following a petition filed by activists, that is Wanjiru Gikonyo, after the old CDF Act was declared unconstitutional. The ruling was made by a 3-judge bench made up of Justices Kanyi Kimondo, Roslyn Aburili, apologies for that, Mugure Thande, who stated additionally that the court ruled the members of the National Assembly have no powers to undertake development projects, and that their role exclusively, as stipulated in the Constitution, remains representation, legislation and oversight. But Parliament clearly stated they will appeal the decision at the Court of Appeal. Now, let me start with you, Daktari. We're talking about the courts have declared this NGCDF unconstitutional. But people on the ground are saying that if the NGCDF is no longer there, what happens to the bursaries that are being issued year in, year out?
Kenya is very interesting, and every time we hear things which surprises us, you realize that a number of times things that parliamentarians do that are not constitutional have been flagged by the courts. They have been flagged by Auditor General. They have been flagged by control of the budget. However, parliamentarians have no ears to hear or to see, eyes to see, or they don't want to act on it. It is a very simple thing. We have divided powers among the 3 arms of the government, and of course, again, among the 2 governments, or the 2 government level of government. You realize that an MP whose mandate is very clear in the Constitution will want to go an extra mile to do things which has no framework in terms of his role. For example, you'll see CDF. You mentioned issues of bursary. The CDF, we have been told it covers education and security. Now, when you look at keenly, the 2 roles have clear, their ministries mandated to play that role. For example, we have the Ministry of Education, we have Teacher Service Commission, and we have the schools which are running these institutions. We don't, at any one time, had that members of parliament, because of members of parliament's effort, schools could not run. CDF is not about schools. It's not about bursaries. CDF is used for bribing and rewarding people who have voted you and bringing back those who denied to vote you, so that in the next round they are in your basket. This often happens because there are quite a number of schools, classrooms, call them classrooms, which has been constructed in villages. For example, I come from Mandera West. In every village, you find around 4 or 5 classes constructed every year. The same classes every year they are being constructed, and they don't increase in number. They are always 3 or 4 or 5, and every year construction goes on in those classes. What happens is that members of parliament engage the local school heads and ask them to construct, to renovate one of the classes, and assume that is a new class constructed, and the amount of money spent there is something unimaginable. For example, in a population of around 10, 15 households, where the children in that location or in that settlement are not more than 15, somebody has constructed a classroom there. It's not that he is bringing education closer to settlement, because there is no teacher, There's no books, there's no electricity, there's nothing, even solar, there's no water, even water, basic things. And yet, you are constructing a classroom. If you tour constituency like mine in Mandera West, you will going to realize that for the last 10, 15 years, from the time CDF has been utilized by the members of parliament, they have been constructing the same classrooms. If you go and audit those things, you will find shock. So, members of parliament are looking at things from the perspective of gain, not the perspective of playing their role as a member of parliament. For example, education itself. Look at 150 million every constituency. Time is how many constituencies?
290.
So how many billions of that? 150 billion? County government, the governor is also releasing around 110 or 20 million every year. How many is that? Another 150 billion. We are talking about, we are valuing money based on where it is going. They go to the national government, they are also releasing bursaries. So you realize actually 700 billion from different pockets of, including money from well-wishers and other development partners who are providing also scholarships and are going to education. But do we see that one in reality? No, we don't. So I think a time has come when we must be able to account for all expenditures that every person takes place. By the way, this money comes from the Exchequer's account. And if the money is coming to an Exchequer, why are you giving the money to someone else? Why don't you channel direct this money to the schools so that we can have schools freely? Recently, I was in Sri Lanka. And you know, Sri Lanka is a small island country. I was shocked. They are not economically stable like that, like us. But you know what? Education is free, health is free, and there is a road tarmacked in every village. Every village. And that is the only thing we need. We will pay as much as tax as the government wishes, so long as education, health, and road infrastructures are improved. The rest, we will not even bother you. We may even actually contribute to the development of this nation voluntarily, because you don't have that pressure that is pushing us. That is pushing us. Currently, people are pressurized just because they can't pay for their children's school fees, they can't pay for their medical services.
Okay, Dr. Sam, these are lawmakers. At the end of the day, they make laws. There is a 2-year grace period. Don't you think they will change these laws to address some of the issues the court raised?
Now, Hashim, the first thing is that the role of a member of parliament is legislation, representation, and oversight. The NGCDF was brought in because they thought that they had no fund to implement any development projects in their areas. It was a way of getting some from the national government, which would not have reached if there was no one to follow. So the national government actually has allocated in the 2023-2024 budget, they spent 53.53 billion on NGCDF. They say, as you ken a child, you bring him or her closer again. NGCDF in some areas has done a lot. Where you find leadership that is responsible, actually NGCDF is doing a lot. But in other areas, it is a budgeted corruption, form of corruption, because as Dr. had said, that it is a way of enticing the community to vote for you. But if you have, I think panelists, some have run for members of parliament. You see the problems that the people have. You wake up in the morning, women have sat outside your compound on lesos, each one having a school fees, or school fees form, fee structure. They have fee balances, and they want you to help. How do you help such if you had no fund? If you are depending on your salary? For example, PK Salasia says he earns only 2,000. How will he support the people of Mumias if he had no fund? I think in the next 2 years, the members of parliament should take their sweet time and ensure that the legislation is properly made, tested. They can even test it themselves and say, this one, you see there are lawyers there. They can tell you this will fail or this will sail through. They should add themselves a role into the constitution if if it doesn't need a referendum. If that clause doesn't need a referendum, they can add themselves that role. But at the end of the day, if you look at it, the member of parliament, he doesn't even sit in the NGCDF committee. He is an ex officio member that doesn't, he just makes sure that the funds come. But there is a committee that oversees the spending of NGCDF, even though I can see panelists smiling.
Yeah, because we have seen legislators running
the
those
legislators
funds
run the funds, but like a marionette, a person who is operating a marionette. But we should put it in law clearly, such that if somebody challenges it, it doesn't go through because it has been well anchored in law.
So
but if they do it,
is it trying to say that we put legislative?
No, allow him to finish.
No,
I gave you time.
Are you saying that
let's get his logic.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Let's get his logic.
Now,
Let him
once it
finish.
is well anchored in law, we know who is responsible. They also do the oversight to ensure that in the areas that money is spent well. Because if the auditor gives a damning report about your area, you should hold those people responsible. There is no need of constructing a one-room toilet at 8 million. Seriously? A pit latrine at 8 million? It doesn't make sense. And also, these tendering procedures that we do nowadays, the lowest bidder, supposing there were people invited to tender for a pit latrine, and actually the one who gave 8 million is the lowest bidder. You see, you end up giving such a person. We should also anchor that in law such that we know we get value for money. Because if that money is spent just haphazardly, we should amalgamate or consolidate the bursary, and it comes through one channel. Somebody said, and the president seems to fear doing this, because the other time the Gen Z asked him in a town hall meeting about the bursary thing, why can't it be consolidated? He talked about the MCAs, the women reps, they might come after him, and I was wondering, we elected him. The women reps did not elect him. The MCAs did not elect him. If we remove even their votes from his votes, he will still be a winner. So he should follow, amalgamate all this, and the money, as Dr. says, goes directly to the school. The head teachers and the teachers in there know the needy students.
Yes. Given that we're running out of time, Wakili, talk to us on the same, but where do we come in as Kenyans? Is it that we don't understand the role of our legislators? Because you go to the MCA, ask for one thing, which is similar to what the MP has. And once you've concluded with the MP, you rush to the governor's office. So do we understand our role as Kenyans, especially when it comes to some of these leaders we place in office and the mandate they are supposed to carry out?
No, I don't think it's a question of understanding our leaders. I think it's a question of the kind of society that we have kind of brewed. You know, the kind of society that we have now been brought up. Yeah, we are a kind of society that believes that, you know, if I elected you, then I should go hungry. Because I elected you, my son should be given work. You know, because I put in office, surely I should see some fire in my house, cooking something. Yeah. So I think it's a societal mentality that Mheshimiwa ako pale, and therefore he must give me something. Yeah. And now that's a big problem. Because you can't really be able to manage the societal expectations sometimes. Like in this country, you cannot. I also tried to vie for MP in my area. I also vied for speaker, and up to now, you know, they'll call me Mheshimiwa, and you know that name comes with a price. I can't go home without money. You know, it's a societal mentality that this guy, because he's called this name, he must have money. You know, they don't believe that you can't lack money. They believe that you have money. So the only way for you to survive is now for you to make sure this small CDF you're getting, you must have a budget. Like he said, a budgeted corruption. Budget for something, some money for yourself. You know, you must come back. You must campaign. You must be back. Re-elected. You must make sure that you sustain that period of 5 years, which means sustaining is making sure wakikuja asubuhi they are said, you must give them something. Yeah, and also there's a constituency where they will want to judge you by development, so you also budget for it. Yeah, so that is a problem that I think we must be able to emancipate on, or rather, a philosopher said, decolonize our minds and sort it out. Otherwise, we cannot really blame the MPs. It's the society that we have to blame. Let's blame ourselves. Yes. Okay. And I think also just to dive into the question of the NGCDF, I think the courts were very right. You know, we cannot allow our MPs again to become, you know, project managers, yeah? Unless they want us to amend the constitution and add them those responsibilities, then we can be able now to give them these monies. However, these monies can still remain in the county government and the national government. If you read the judgment, you'll see the court trying to fight with the question of the division of revenue. Yeah, that is Article 202 of the Constitution. Yeah, what did the draft of the Constitution really mean by division of this revenue bill? Now, if you look at this division of revenue, it only talks about sharing of revenue between two arms of government, that is the national government and the county government. It did not envisage another animal somewhere whereby we will also get our money, no, and send it to the NGCDF. Okay. And therefore, I believe that unless for us one solve this issue, unless MPs want to solve this issue, they only have one route. Okay. They must or they should amend the constitution. Finally, Joseph, given that we are running out of time now. You interact with the politician. Yeah. I'm sure yourself you're a politician. Now, without NGCDF, are these seats attractive?
Now that is the magic question. I think you have answered a question that will help Kenya move forward. First of all, when we make these political seats less attractive in terms of the money they control, we'll get professionals and people who have passion to serve. We'll get, when you go to the social work spaces, you find the social workers are never paid a lot, but the work they do because of the passion they have to serve, it is immense. You know, during Kibaki time, President Kibaki time, he brought about free primary education. Yes. And there was good transition. Then you came Uhuru Kenyatta, it stretched it to the high school, the secondary school. But now with this government, now there is nothing. All these monies, Kenya, we can have a free education for all. Okay. If all this money is channeled towards the Ministry of Education with better structures and good accountability. Okay. The reason an MP is fighting, if you go and do the census to the people who are purported to receive the CDF money, they don't want it because it is so selective, so discriminatory. So people, you find there's a place, a child is given 2,000, another place is given even 20,000. That fund itself has a lot of inequalities. Okay. So if you ask Kenyans, they'd rather have this money domiciled in the ministry and use proper channel for the free education for all. Thank you. Not an MP. Thank you, Joseph. That is Joseph Kagai, Jubilee Party strategist. Next to him, it is Edward Waswa, an advocate of the High Court. I'm sure you're going to the courts right now. Yes, Sami Meli, a policy and governance expert. And then finally, Daktari Isaka San, a governance and policy expert. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm sure the conversation could have continued for 3 hours. It was so interesting. Thank you so much. And of course, to our viewers, you can carry on the conversation, of course, online at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 1. Now, given today is the 1st of October 2024, it is the rollout of the Social Health Insurance Fund, and that will be our focus in the second hour. Don't go too far. My guests have already arrived.